have it written down to try to keep me on track. Kind of scatterbrained when I have to speak things out loud instead of just typing them. I'm better with words than I am in front of a camera. I really, really, really hate it. It's super uncomfortable. Not quite sure why that is, but here we are. So, welcome. My story starts before I was ever even born. My dad wanted me aborted. I like to believe I was meant to wake up during this lifetime and be aware of things not being right in the world. My birth was surrounded by sevens. I'm not saying that it makes me special or anything like that. It's just something that I've noticed. And Father still speaks to me in numbers to this day. I can't deny the encounters that I've had. It's just the way that it is. I was born in exactly 7 minutes at 7:07 in the morning, weighing 7 pounds, 7 ounces, and 21 inches long. And 7 plus 7 plus 7 is 21. Childhood was very traumatic, filled with SA, you know, physical and emotional abuse. Much of my childhood, I disassociated and blocked out. But the parts that I do remember, at times I wish I didn't. But the memories are stained and imprinted into my brain. I'll share a couple of instances. Sitting on the stairs, seeing my dad hitting my mom until she was bloodied and bruised instantly. Breaking a glass in her hand that resulted in her having to learn how to write again, and still to this day doesn't have feeling. Knowing when he was done with her that I would be next. Always knowing it was coming, but never knowing when was the psychological mindfuck. Pardon my language, but that is the way that it is. Psychological abuse on a whole nother level that no one should ever have to endure, much less a child. We lived on base housing, and there were always crazy parties filled with drugs and alcohol. These are the times that the SA would usually happen. I can only speak for myself here, as I don't know if anything happened to my sister. I'd like to think that she would talk to me and tell me about it, but I didn't tell her either. I've never spoken these things out loud to anyone before until recently. I had a lot of healing to do. I know I wasn't the only child on base that had much the same fate. There's memories of them in the same room. And looking back, you can see the signs that are there staring back, and big red flags. The things just weren't okay. My mom was terrified to leave. I do remember we did run, but my dad ended up fighting us and forced us back by gunpoint at one point. It took so many friends and family members to hide us long enough for us to be able to flee again when he was gone on duty. Looking back, now that I'm awake, I can recall my first encounter with our Savior. I didn't know it at the time. The Bible and Jesus were not allowed to be talked about. The story from both of my parents were that they were two different denominations. They decided never to speak with it or about it because they couldn't agree. I can't help but think that there's more to it. Anyway, my first encounter after a really bad beating, I was hit with the buckle of my dad's belt from the middle of my back down to the back of my knees, and I was covered in bruises and welts, and parts of my skin were broken open and bleeding. Then the hot water was turned on in the bath, and my dad forced me into the scalding hot water, which in turn burned me. I was 6. Like, what did I do to deserve that? I was locked out of the house so my dad could do his drugs in peace. He wouldn't let me in to use the restroom, and by the time he did, it was too late. So I was punished for the accident. As I was sitting in the tub in excruciating pain, I felt a hand there on my shoulder, even though I was in there alone. And I heard, "Don't worry, you'll be a warrior for me one day." And all the pain was gone in an instant. I didn't comprehend what happened then, but the adult me totally gets it. That is just a tiny piece of what I endured as a child. Then there was the mental abuse from my mom that always was threatening to send us to live with my dad, and always reminding me of how he wanted me aborted. I still don't know why he hated me so much. Having my own children, I'll never understand it. The children are everything to me. When we left my dad, this is where the real demonic attacks began. I would always see the monsters in the closet and under the bed. They were crawling on the walls with red glowing eyes, plagued by night terrors, paralysis, and nightmares almost every single night. I would want to sleep with my mom. I was so terrified. But instead of getting the comfort of my mom's arms around me, I was only allowed to sleep on the floor next to her bed. It was a water bed, so at least there was no monsters under it. I would always have a light on and would sleep completely underneath the covers, head and all. I felt safe under there. If they can't see me, then I can't see them, and if I can't see them, then they can't see me, right? Just don't move. Don't breathe. Make your breath shallow. Be still like you're dead. And they won't get you. I got good at not being noticed, but I would still get attacked and could always feel the evil around me. There were always supernatural things happening around me, but those are a story for another time. Okay, here we are back for part 2. Had to stop filming. I kept having some crazy stuff go on, and I also needed to collect my thoughts, so I apologize if this is not cohesive and very well put together, but here we are. By the time I was a teen, I was already into the dark and weird things, wearing a pentagram and so on. I was still seeing the monsters I now knew as demons. Was still not able to sleep unless there was a light on. When people asked me why I was afraid of the dark, my reply was always the same. I'm not afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of what's in the dark. They never understood. By the time I was in my early 20s, I was full on New Age and witchcraft, casting circles in my bedroom. I practiced alone. I didn't want any kind of coven or to be a part of any of that. I was used to being a loner, and I preferred it that way. I ended up having a familiar spirit that would tell me about people that I've never even met. I would just get information. I know that they're demons now. I didn't know that then. I just figured that whatever it was I was communicating with was their dead one, as really like a dead relative is what I thought it was. During this time, however, that I was practicing, there was no night terrors and I was left alone. My biggest push into witchcraft was actually after my Hat Man encounter. At 26, I stopped physically practicing, but I still had the mindset for many years to come after that. After my youngest daughter was born, I fell into addiction in the form of oxy and morphine. Initially, I took them after a bad accident and my disc being blown during childbirth from an epidural gone wrong. Funny, the night terrors were far and few between during the period that I was using too. But during all of this, I still felt and saw the demonic. This is not something that has ever gone away. When I was 22, I lost everything except for my car and my children and what could fit in my car. We were homeless, but I was never worried. I just knew that we'd be okay and everything would work out. I always lived by don't worry about the things that you have no control over. Only later did I come to find out that there's actually a Bible verse on this. Don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble on its own. What's better is those are Messiah's words from the Sermon on the Mount. I'm telling you, the word truly is written on our inward parts. Regardless of all the ugly things that went on in my life, I was always joyful and happy and just full of love. I know I wanted to share, and I wanted to give the one thing I never got, which was love. Anyway, by the time I was 32, I had to have a hysterectomy. I was in so much pain from the scar tissue from the abuse that I endured. I didn't want to exist anymore. The pain was so bad. That was a dark part in my life because I had to face the fact that my past and what happened to me. I told people I had cancer starting, which was true, but it wasn't the reason for the removal. It was just easier to swallow for me and for everyone else. That surgery really messes with your head. If I could go back, I'd probably do things a lot differently. All through this, I'm still taking the pills, and I would always be sure that I never ran out. Before the pills, it was alcohol. Always running from my trauma instead of focusing on it and facing it. Always covering it with a Band-Aid of some sort. Fast forward to February 2020. I had an interesting time in Las Vegas that trip. I usually went once a year. I decided at that point that I was never drinking again. It's not like I was able to get drunk or buzzed anyway. I started drinking in 7th grade. Maybe that is why to this day I still haven't had any alcohol. November 2020, right after Thanksgiving, was my real awakening. I wasn't thinking about our Creator or His Son, but I was earnestly seeking the truth. I just felt something was missing in my life. For the first time, I took stock of this emptiness that I had in my heart, despite of how seemingly well life was going. I had just barely gotten a YouTube channel, so the algorithm hadn't even known me yet. And let's face it, biblical content was never recommended. But as I was sitting there scrolling, a prayer came up. I was very intrigued by it, and I felt something in my heart leap. I was like, what do I have to lose? I made the prayer request my own. I couldn't tell you exactly what I said, but I know I asked for the truth, and if He was real, that I needed to know. And within moments, I felt the Holy Spirit come over me, and I felt simultaneously awful for the things that I did in my life, and also so happy feeling the love that I had been seeking. Everything changed in that instant. Emotion I never felt before. An emotion that I would never let myself feel. I cried for all the times that I held it in, and for all the pain, and for the child I never got to be. My child being filled with abuse and death added capacity for so much rage. I once, at the age of 10, after my brother that passed away, I literally chased my sister around with the butcher knife. She wouldn't let me leave the house after my mom said that I could go. I was always getting into fights up until I was 18. I tried to curb the rage better by that point. Anyway, after that night, November 2020, I never looked back. I listened to the audio Bible on repeat until I got my own copy. By 2022, that October, I put the pills down for good. I quit cold turkey, and I was on very, very high doses that would probably kill anybody else. Don't ask me how I'm still alive other than the grace of Yah that he wanted me to still be here for whatever reason. Part of me knows my purpose. The other part of me is still trying to figure things out. But it was a very supernatural type of experience. I knew I should have been way sicker than I was. The withdrawal was not that bad. By day 4, I was already back at work. I never even had another craving for them. And I'm really happy that that part of my life is over. And I can share that testimony with people because it was something dark that I hid from everybody. No one knew. And I don't know if that says something about the people that are around me, that they couldn't figure it out. Or maybe they just didn't care. That's like a whole nother thing to unpack. And I have no words for that right now. By August of 2023, I quit smoking. Currently in a new chapter of my book of life. Trials are still going on, but now I have Abba and Jesus, and I understand my purpose. There's nothing greater than the love that they have for us, and I pray others see this and feel this and have their encounter with the Most High and His Son. As long as my story helps someone out, I don't mind putting it out there and making myself super uncomfortable. This has been like a long time coming, and it's cathartic to do, to say the least, but at the same time, it's super vulnerable and scary, and I'm not good at being vulnerable at all. So with that being said, much love, family. So as I finished filming my video last night, there was just something sitting heavy on my spirit that wouldn't allow me to post it quite yet, and I was awake all night. And then it was brought to my remembrance one of the most important parts on our walk, which is forgiveness. My journey taught me forgiveness and how to love people properly in the biblical way, by action. It's not just a rainbow and sunshine feeling that you get inside your heart or the pit of your stomach. It's definitely a lot more than that. I'm in my prayer closet, so I apologize for any random plane noises or whatever you might hear. All that to say that I did forgive my parents. They're both totally different people now from what I can tell. I still have a relationship with my mom. It definitely could be better. She's apologized for so many things and wishes that she can go back and do things differently. I verbally told both of my parents that I forgave them for everything, and I do, from the bottom of my heart. I definitely have a strained relationship with my dad. I haven't talked to him in a few years now, probably since 2020 actually. He married a wonderful woman who I am happy and proud to call my stepmom. She's beautiful and amazing, and I believe helped my dad heal and change those parts of himself that I never got a chance to experience. Forgiveness is not for them. It is for us, to help us heal and grow and become better. I know it may be hard to understand, but even with all that I went through, I really truly do forgive my dad and my mom for everything. That's part of what this journey is about. There was something profound that changed in me when that forgiveness came, and everything changed. I felt a huge weight taken off of my shoulders. So I pray those of you that have been harmed by other people, family, friends, that you could really self-reflect and look deep inside your heart and learn how to forgive other people. It doesn't mean you have to reconcile with them. It doesn't mean that you have to have a relationship. You don't even have to verbally tell them that you forgave them, as long as you know in your heart, and Father knows in your heart, that that forgiveness was extended and you meant it, because that's what really matters. Following in the footsteps of our Messiah, forgiving those that crucified him in the moment of all that pain. We can do no less for our kingdom, the walk that we're on, for our Father in heaven, and what all that really means. Our treasures are stored up there, not down here. Anyway, forgive others. Learn what true biblical love really means. Extend it, especially when you can feel and know that those around you really, really need it and they're missing it in their life. I know that I can be very abrasive and snarky, super spicy. The girls in my chat, they know. They're family, though. They get me. And I always do mean well. So I really thank you guys for loving me and accepting me for who I am, despite all of my flaws and my no filter. Maybe one day I'll get one, but I doubt it. I'm too old for that. I don't care. It is what it is. Anyway, much love, everybody. Have a blessed day.